Welcome to the Full Moon Film Buff. Here it is, episode 100. We're going to talk about Wolf from 1994. I watched this on Amazon Prime. I had seen this before. As always, we start with the prominent crew and cast. You can find links to a complete credit list in the show notes. The film was directed by Mike Nichols. The screenplay was written by Jim Harrison and Wesley Strick. The music was by Ennio Morricone, and the special effects were by Rick Baker. Now, Mike Nichols is certainly the most prestigious director that we've seen as part of the Werewolf Project. He already had an Oscar for Best Director for the 1968 film The Graduate when he directed this film. He would become one of the few entertainers to have earned the status of EGOT, winning the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Awards for television, film, and theater and music. He's got Emmys for Wit from 2001 and Angels in America from 2004. He's earned a Grammy for Best Comedy Album in 1962 and has a pile of Tony Awards from Barefoot in the Park, The Odd Couple, Annie, and Death of a Salesman, among others. Jim Harrison wrote many more novels, novellas, poetry, and nonfiction than he did screenplays. He's probably most famous for writing the trilogy of novels entitled Legends of the Fall. In addition to being a successful screenwriter, Wesley Strick has served as a creative advisor at the Sundance Institute Screenwriters Lab. Now, I don't habitually discuss the musicians behind these movies, but I'm making an exception for Ennio Morricone. Morricone was a composer and orchestra who left an unforgettable mark on film music. Born in Rome, he began his musical journey as a trumpet player before transitioning to composition. His career spanned 6 decades, during which he composed more than 400 scores for cinema and television, as well as over 100 classical works. He is best known for his influential scores for spaghetti westerns, particularly his collaborations with director Sergio Leone on films like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Once Upon a Time in the West. His distinctive style, blending unconventional instruments and sounds with traditional orchestration, revolutionized film scoring. Morricone's versatility allowed him to work across various genres, from horror to drama, earning him numerous accolades, including an Oscar in 2016 for The Hateful Eight. Now, I've previously discussed the great Rick Baker back when I analyzed An American Werewolf in London from 1981. The cast includes Jack Nicholson as Will Randall, Michelle Pfeiffer as Laura Alden, James Spader as Stuart Swinton, Kate Nelligan as Charlotte Randall, Richard Jenkins as Detective Bridger, and Christopher Plummer as Raymond Alden. There have been high-profile names in werewolf movies before, often in either supporting character and mentor roles or at the very beginnings of their career. But this is the first instance of an A-list actor at the top of their game stepping into the role of a werewolf. Jack Nicholson is one of the most iconic and versatile actors in American cinema history. He began his career in the 50s, working first as a gopher for animation company Hanna-Barbera. Nicholson's breakthrough role in the counterculture classic Easy Rider in 1969 launched him into stardom. Throughout the 70s and 80s, he delivered a string of memorable performances in films such as Chinatown in 1974, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in 1975, and The Shining in 1980. His ability to portray complex, often anti-heroic characters with charisma and depth set him apart as one of the greatest actors of his generation. His performances earned him 3 Academy Awards, 2 for Best Actor and 1 for Best Supporting Actor, making him one of the most decorated male actors in Oscar history. Known for his distinctive voice, eyebrows, and a devilish grin, Nicholson is a cultural icon, both on and off screen. Michelle Pfeiffer began her career in the early 80s with small roles in television and film before gaining widespread recognition for her breakout role in Scarface in 1983. Throughout the late 80s and 90s, Pfeiffer established herself with memorable performances in films such as Dangerous Liaisons in 1988. Her talent earned her 3 Academy Award nominations. She took a brief hiatus in the early 2000s to focus on her family and then returned to both film and television in top form, including her role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Janet Van Dyne. James Spader is a versatile and enigmatic actor known for portraying complex, often morally ambiguous characters. He began his acting career in the 80s, gaining attention with roles in films like Pretty in Pink in 1986 and Sex, Lies, and Videotape in 1989. Spader's career has spanned both film and television. However, it's his television work that has brought him widespread acclaim in recent years. He won 3 Emmy Awards for his role as Alan Shore in The Practice and its spin-off Boston Legal. Kate Nelligan began her career with the Royal Shakespeare Company in the 70s. Nelligan is a Tony and Academy Award nominated actress. Richard Jenkins has earned numerous accolades, including an Emmy Award for the miniseries Olive Kitteridge in 2014, and multiple Emmy and Academy Award nominations. Christopher Plummer began his professional career on the stage in the 50s, establishing himself as a formidable Shakespearean actor. Plummer gained international fame as Captain Von Trapp in the beloved musical film The Sound of Music in 1965, although apparently he previously expressed ambivalence about being associated with this role. He has demonstrated remarkable versatility, equally at home in classical theater, contemporary dramas, and blockbuster films. Plummer made history as the oldest actor to win an Oscar for his supporting role in Beginners in 2010 at the age of 82. I absolutely recommend this film. I don't think it's as good a werewolf film as the titans of the genre, but it's something new and interesting. It's a prestige werewolf movie. It doesn't go hard on gore or scares, though it doesn't shy away from killing either. However, it is much more interested in the psychological and social aspects of the transformation. It offers a very intelligent take on the werewolf genre. Originally, this film was conceived as a more straightforward horror movie. However, with Mike Nichols at the helm, it evolved into a more sophisticated psychological thriller with werewolf elements. The film's development was a long process with multiple rewrites to balance the supernatural aspects with the corporate drama and the romance. So now let's cover the synopsis. On the night of a full moon, Will Randall drives from Vermont to Manhattan. The road is dark and icy, and he hits a large wolf with his car. He tries to drag the wolf's body off the road when the uninjured wolf, playing dead, suddenly bites him and runs off. Will retreats to his car and peels out. The pack watches him from the woods, their yellow eyes glowing in the dark. Will makes it home to his penthouse and his wife, Charlotte. Will is an older man and currently the editor-in-chief at a New York publishing firm, but a new billionaire has just bought the business, and everyone is concerned about their jobs, including Will. Lots of his co-workers and authors say they'll leave with him if he's fired, including his protege, Stuart Swinton. Now, Will's new boss, Raymond Alden, throws a lavish dinner party at his Long Island estate. He informs Will that he is being demoted and offers Will a job as an editor in Eastern Europe. His replacement will be Stuart. Turns out Stuart is driven and ambitious. He went behind Will's back and stole his job. After the demotion, Will gets closed to a prized horse Raymond is showing, and it becomes spooked. Will feels a pain in his chest and is forced to sit down near the guest house. While recovering, he meets Alden's headstrong daughter, Laura, who is polite but sullen and withdrawn. She comforts him with a glass of liquor. Will rejoins Charlotte and Stuart and generously congratulates the latter on his promotion. Stuart feigns ignorance, claiming that he learned about Raymond's decision right before the party. Will and Charlotte drive home, seething over the injustice. Will ends up sleeping through the entire next day, waking up only when Charlotte gets home in the evening. He becomes passionate with her, to her approval. His wound is healing weird. His hand is furry. When Will enters his office the next day, he notices that his senses are enhanced. He can smell liquor on a coworker's breath as he passes him and reads without his glasses. He can hear every conversation going on in the building. He researches books that might help him explain what's happening to him. Charlotte is out of town for work, and Will takes several deep sniffs of her robe when he gets home. He becomes agitated and heads to Stuart's apartment. Will blows right by Stuart, who tries to grab him and stop him. Will bites Stuart's hand and bounds up the grand staircase to Stuart's apartment with superhuman agility to find Charlotte there. Will leaves without saying a word, leaving his wife unharmed. Will checks into the Manhattan's Mayflower Hotel. The next day, he begins working with his secretary Mary and his assistant Roy. They plot to draw his and Roy's clients into a new firm with new investors, a move that hasn't got a shred of truth yet, much to the admiration of Mary and Roy. Will confronts Stuart and exposes what a liar and sneak he is. Will directly threatens Stuart. Will drives out to Raymond's estate again and tells Raymond he is turning down the position in Eastern Europe. While leaving, Will sees Laura riding a horse. The horse is spooked by Will's presence again and throws Laura off. Raymond appears and, upon confirming that Laura is unharmed, insults Will. He doesn't approve of Laura getting involved with Will, which only drives her into Will's arms. She turns down her father's lunch invitation and takes Will to the guest house. The two converse over peanut butter and jelly and on into the afternoon. Will confides in her about his encounter with the wolf. He believes he might be becoming one. He gets sick again and lays down in her house. She tends to him. He wakes up in the night. clearly showing signs of a transformation. He jumps out of the window, chases down, and kills a deer. At dawn, Will finds himself covered with blood. He immediately heads off to see his doctor, who tells him he's fine. Now, Will's plot to jump ship and take the publishing house's best authors with him works like a charm. He finagles a new contract to stay editor-in-chief and grants him a larger salary and greater authority. Raymond also allows him to be the one to fire Stewart. Laura assumes Will skipped out on her and refuses Will's phone calls. Will visits Dr. Vijav Alizeus, a professor specializing in the supernatural. Alizeus believes the wolf that bit Will was not a werewolf, but a demon wolf, passing along the spirit of the animal to its victims. He suggests that not all wolf spirits are evil. They are influenced by the inner nature of the individual. The professor gives Will an amulet to protect him from turning completely into a wolf. Alizeus also asks Will to bite him, as Alizeus does not have long to live and would prefer demonization to death. Will cannot bring himself to bite the old man. He does keep the amulet, but he doesn't put it on. He finally gets Laura on the phone and explains. That night, Will breaks into the Central Park Zoo. He escapes a pair of cops who try to arrest him, taking the handcuffs with him. In another area of the park, muggers accost him. He attacks them. He wakes up with no memory of what happened. Next day, Will corners Stewart in the men's room. Stewart begs for a second chance, but Will fires him anyway, urinating on his shoes. Will finds fingers in his handkerchief while washing his hands and realizes that he killed at least one of the muggers in Central Park. Charlotte begs Will to take her back, to forgive her, but Will's not having any of it. He finally puts on the amulet Alizeus gave him. Will, who believes he's becoming dangerous, handcuffs himself to the radiator in his hotel room. Laura gains entrance to the room and frees Will over his objections. The pair spend the night together making love. The next day, they hear that Charlotte has been murdered and that the police suspect Will. Laura takes Will to her father's estate where she learns about the dead deer. Will asks her to lock him up in the horses' stables. Laura gets a call from the detective investigating Charlotte's death. He tells her that canine DNA was found on Charlotte's body. Now, Laura starts to believe Will's story. Alarmed, Laura heads to the police station. There, she runs into Stewart, who makes a pass at her. Laura hurries away, making arrangements for her and Will to leave the country. It turns out that Will's biting of Stewart back when he discovered Charlotte's affair had consequences. The spirit of the wolf has been passed to Stewart as well. Stewart attacked and killed Charlotte and set about framing Will for her murder. Stewart follows Laura and murders 2 security guards. He attacks Laura, assaulting her in front of Will. Will tears off the amulet, accepting the full power of the wolf. He escapes confinement and attacks Stewart. The two fight fang and claw. Laura shoots and kills Stewart when he attempts to stab Will with garden shears. Will and Laura stare at each other. Will is hesitant to touch her due to his monstrous form. She takes his hand, but he still runs off into the woods. The cops arrive to clean up. Laura shows heightened senses while talking to the detective and the police that accompanied him, hinting that she can smell vodka on his breath. Will completes his transformation into a wolf. The final scene is a close-up of Laura's face fading into dark, lupine eyes. Rick Baker, known for his groundbreaking work on An American Werewolf in London, created the werewolf effect for Wolf. The transformation scenes are much more subtle compared to other werewolf films, focusing on Nicholson's performance and gradual physical changes rather than full-body transformations. It reminded me a lot of a much improved version of the makeup job in Werewolf of London from 1935. There is almost no change to the body or facial structure. The eyes are the first sign of a change, turning golden amber. The body and face become hairier. The canine teeth and fingernails elongate into fierce weapons. Nicholson and Spader can deliver subtle, nuanced performances through this makeup. Another consequence is that the transformation can be very smooth. No need for long, drawn-out dissolves or complicated effect sequences. It's really, really good. Wolf also takes a different approach to werewolf lore, taking a much more grounded approach. While Will is recognizable as a werewolf, the lore is a very, very simplified version. The transformations are tied to the lunar cycle, but the film focuses more on the psychological and behavioral changes rather than physical metamorphosis. It explores the idea of the wolf as a metaphor for unleashed human nature and primal instincts. This initial metamorphosis for Will and Stewart is triggered by a bite. It's less clear what triggered Laura's impending transformation. There were opportunities for her to be bitten, either when Stewart attacked her or when she had sex with Will. The new werewolf has less than a month before the transformation is complete, and they become a wolf until they die. These werewolves are supernaturally strong, dexterous, and fast. Will chases down a deer. They also have extremely keen senses. Will identifies Charlotte's infidelity from a sniff of her robe, picking up Stuart's scent. Interestingly, the film ignores any special weaknesses. Stuart is gunned down by mundane bullets. The common gardening shears were presented as a legitimate threat that could have killed Will. There's a lot of themes to talk about, so let's get started. Mike Nichols' 1994 film Wolf draws a compelling parallel between the cutthroat nature of corporate America and the savagery of wolves. This metaphor drives both the story and character development, particularly for the protagonist, Will Randall. Initially, Will is a mild-mannered book editor, facing replacement by a younger, more aggressive colleague. After being bitten by a wolf, Will begins transforming. But this transformation isn't just physical, it's professional too. As he embraces his wolfish traits, Will becomes more assertive and territorially aggressive at work, in human form. This change suggests that the success in the corporate world requires tapping into that primal animal instinct. Stuart Swinton, Will's ambitious protege turned rival, embodies corporate ruthlessness. Willing to betray his mentor and sleep with his wife, Stuart is already a wolf in human form at the beginning of the movie. His character reinforces the idea that the corporate world rewards predatory instincts. Now, as Will's transformation progresses, his corporate success grows. He outmaneuvers rivals and reclaims his position with more pay and more power. This trajectory suggests the dark truth. Corporate success requires embracing one's inner wolf, being willing to hunt, mark territory, and fight off challengers. In one very famous scene, Will marks his territory by urinating on a rival's shoes. This moment, both humorous and disturbing, encapsulates the film's commentary on corporate behavior. The act doesn't seem entirely out of place, suggesting that such territorial behaviors are just thinly veiled in the business world. The theme culminates in the final confrontation between Will and Stuart. Their battle, ostensibly over Laura, represents two predators fighting for dominance and the right to lead the corporate pack. Stuart's attempt to frame Will for murder further illustrates the extremes of this corporate rivalry. Wolf uses its supernatural premise to critique corporate America. It suggests the corporate world is a wolf's den where predatory instincts are rewarded. The strong survive, and one must embrace their inner animal to succeed. The film leaves us questioning. In the dog-eat-dog world of corporate America, are we all just wolves in sheep's clothing? It challenges us to consider the nature of success in competitive business environments and its potential cost to our humanity. Through its clever use of the werewolf genre, Wolf offers a biting critique of corporate culture that remains relevant decades after its release. It therefore serves as a powerful commentary on the unforgiving, brutal, and unforgiving nature of the business world, where only the most adaptable and ruthless seem to thrive. Now, another theme that this film tackles is the duality existing within each of us. This is common in werewolf movies. The film uses the werewolf as a metaphor for the tension between our civilized facades and our primal instincts. As Will begins his transformation, we witness more than just a man turning into a beast, but rather the awakening of dormant aspects of his own personality. The werewolf straddles the line between man and beast, becoming the perfect vehicle to explore this duality. In folklore and literature, the werewolf has long symbolized the beast within man, the darker impulses hidden beneath our civilized exterior. As Will's transformation progresses, we see him struggle with newfound aggression, heightened senses, and increased sexual desire. These changes don't turn him into a mindless beast, but rather into a more primal version of himself. He becomes more assertive at work, more attractive to women, and more willing to fight for what he wants. This suggests that these animal traits were always a part of Will. He was just repressing them beneath layers of social conditioning. The film posits an intriguing question. Are these newly awakened traits entirely negative? Will's increased confidence and assertiveness help him regain his position at work and stand up to those who are taking advantage of him. His heightened senses allow him to perceive the world more fully. This portrayal suggests that our animal side, often demonized, can be a source of strength when channeled. However, Wolf doesn't shy away from showing the darker side of unleashing these repressed instincts. We see moments of violence and rage threatening to destroy the life that he's building. This depicts the constant battle within humans to balance our civilized selves with our primal urges. The duality of human nature is not just explored through Will's transformation, but also through the actions of the supposedly human characters around him. We've mentioned that Stewart embodies the idea that humans can be wolves in sheep's clothing. Stewart doesn't need a supernatural transformation to behave in a predatory manner. He stabs Will in the back with a smile on his face, showcasing how human cunning and ambition can be just as dangerous as any animal's fangs or claws. Similarly, Charlotte, Will's wife, represents another facet of human duality. She cheats on Will and then asks him for kindness and understanding, highlighting how humans can act on selfish impulses while still craving their own moral consideration. Her actions remind us that betrayal and selfishness are not the domain of the supernatural. They are deeply human traits. As the film progresses, Will must grapple with fully embracing his wolf side or maintaining his humanity. In the end, he answers the call of the wild and removes himself to the wilderness to live as a wolf. This struggle is the crux of the film's exploration of human duality. Can we acknowledge and integrate our primal side without losing our humanity? Or is the separation of these two aspects of our nature necessary for a functioning society? We are neither purely civilized nor entirely primal, but we're a complex mixture of both. And the film challenges us to recognize and grapple with our own inner wolves, the repressed instincts and desires that lurk beneath our civilized exteriors. Finally, in a recent episode covering The Wasp Woman from 1959, we delved into the beauty standards of women as they age. Now, it's only fair that we turn our attention to how aging is portrayed and perceived for men in cinema. And this film offers a lens through which to examine this topic, presenting a nuanced exploration of male aging in both personal and professional contexts. Will's struggle with aging is a central theme of the film, intertwined with his supernatural transformation. Unlike The Wasp Woman, where the protagonist's aging was tied to physical appearance, Wolf explores aging in men through the prisms of power, virility, and relevance in both the corporate world and personal relationships. The film presents us with two key characters who serve as foils to Will, each representing different aspects of the aging process in men, Stuart Swinton and Raymond Alden. Stuart embodies the threat of youth to aging men in the corporate world. Stuart is ambitious, ruthless, and unencumbered by responsibilities and weariness. His attempts to usurp Will's position at the publishing house reflects a common anxiety among older men, the fear of being replaced by younger, more energetic counterparts. Stuart's character highlights society's valorization of youth in the professional sphere, particularly for men. He represents the young wolf nipping at the heels of the aging alpha, a metaphor made literal in the film's supernatural context. This dynamic touches on the very real pressure men face to maintain their professional edge as they age, lest they be cast aside for a newer model. On the other hand, Raymond represents a different facet of male aging. As the wealthy, powerful owner of the publishing house, Alden showcases how some men maintain and even increase their influence as they age. However, the film doesn't present this as an entirely positive phenomenon. Alden's power is shown to be somewhat hollow, and all of his relationships are transactional. Alden's character speaks to the complex relationship between age and its power for men. While women in films like The Wasp Woman often resort to desperate measures to maintain their youthful appearance and beauty, aging men in position of power frequently cling to their authority and seek validation through relationships with younger partners. This trope highlights the different ways in which aging anxiety manifests for men and women in media. Now, the film also touches on how aging affects men's romantic relationships. Will's wife cheated on him with the younger, more vital Stuart, playing into fears of becoming less desirable with age. However, Will also pursues a relationship with the younger Lara. This can either be read as a similar attempt to borrow the vigor of youth or suggest that genuine connection and understanding can transcend age differences. It's worth noting that Wolf was made at a time when conversations about aging in Hollywood primarily focused on women. By centering the story on a man grappling with the effects of aging, the film brought attention to the fact that men too face pressures and anxieties about growing older, albeit often in different ways than women do. So, if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. Next, I plan on discussing Sleepwalkers from 1992. Keep your eye on the moon, a silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back next episode.